My first Southern Baptist Convention annual meeting was this past week, and I want to share with you some of my thoughts about it. I actually had fun at it. I didn't think that was going to happen, but I did. It was very interesting, very enlightening, and I just want to share this with you as it's still fresh in my mind here. If you watched my previous video, I'm doing 4 videos on this right now. If you watch my previous video, I talked about the SBC for some of you that may not understand it and some of the changes that we made in our church about supporting it. We support it a lot less and do other things a lot more for some different issues. I had not ever been to a Southern Baptist Convention annual meeting. I've only been in a Southern Baptist church for 7 years because I came here to Eastlake, awesome church, part of the SBC. So I had to ask around, what is it like to be a member of the SBC? And like I said in my last video, it is not hierarchical. There is no authority whatsoever over the church. It's completely autonomous. They have no control of us other than if they say, look, you're not in conformity with what we believe, you can't come to the annual meeting. That's all they have. There's no authority there. So I wanted to go to convention because well, they always hold it during our Bible school week. They really shouldn't do that. We always do Bible school that same week. But this year it was going to be in Indianapolis. It's only just a little over 2 hours from here. And so I thought, this is the time. It's always been in our church budget to go and just haven't gone. So this is going to be the year to do it. So my wife and I went down to Indianapolis, and it was at the Indiana Convention Center, which I may have been there once or something before, but it's a really nice, it's a very beautiful place. And the weather was pretty nice. So we went down there, and one of the nice things about it is it is right next to Lucas Oil Stadium. Okay. And so when you're down at Lucas Oil Stadium, you've got to stop by the Peyton Manning statue, right? So my wife and I stopped by there. I'm the ugly one in that picture, by the way. We stopped by, we saw Peyton Manning, his statue, and you couldn't go in, because they are getting ready for the trials for the U.S. Olympic swim team. And because of that, they built, like right outside the convention center, they built this little Eiffel Tower for some reason. They built it right out there and getting ready for these things. So I thought, well, we decided we got to get a picture by that too. So it's just over my head there. You can kind of see it sitting out in the middle of the street. They built this Eiffel Tower there. So it's kind of exciting because they're getting ready to do the Olympic swimming trials and things like that. But anyway, that's enough of what was going on around us there. So here's my overall impression. I was sitting there, and I knew I was going to make these videos, and so I was typing and writing notes the whole time. And as I observed what was going on, this term came to my mind: a mixed bag. A mixed bag. We were sitting there on Tuesday. We had sessions all day Tuesday and then Tuesday night. And I wrote this in my notes, quote, I was encouraged with the way some of the votes went. And I was, because it looked really good. Then on Wednesday, some things changed. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But first, my first observation, I went to the SBC. My first observation, might sound really weird, is that these are real people. Okay, these are real people. Sometime when you're not in the Southern Baptist Convention and you hear about the Southern Baptist Convention, you think everybody's walking around there with horns and red eyes and breathing smoke, right? The people that are to the right. By the way, if you think Southern Baptist is an extremely liberal organization, you have some points, but the world thinks it is extremely strict. So it's kind of step back a little and understand this, okay? Oh, those Southern Baptist people, they're so strict, they stand against gays and everything, and they do stand against homosexuality, but on the other side, more of a group that I have known because I've been in that group more is like, oh, they're just so liberal, they don't believe the Bible or anything anymore. Well, I walked around there and I was like, wow, these are actually like people. They're real people, and they actually love God. They actually are serving him. And I have differences of opinion with some of them, but they're just real people. As you walk around, there's a group over here, and there were some groups that were talking and they were praying and doing things like that. Like, these are actually Christians, folks. Okay. These are actually Christians. And we went to restaurants, you go walking in, and obviously everyone there, they got the red lanyard on because you can't get any of the rooms without your badge. And you walk around in restaurants in the area, and you walk by tables and they're talking about God, they're talking about church. So I mean, you just understand. Sometimes you can get this non-personal vision of people. Oh, those Southern Baptists, they're so bad. No, they're people. Okay, they're people. When we're there, everyone's friendly, right? There's I don't know. There were like almost 11,000 official messengers, but there were visitors. So they say, I think there were like 16,000 people there. That's a lot of people in a room. It's a big room. And you got to climb over people to get to your seat. Nobody, I never heard anybody complain, anybody fighting. It's just, we're there because we're here doing God's work. Okay. And so just that was my first impression. These are just real people. Okay. My second observation about this was that lots of things happen. Lots of things happen. The last few years I've been able to watch online because, like I said, it was during our vacation Bible school week. And so I wasn't going, but I would watch a lot online. So I had a little bit of an idea how some of the business happened, and I really thought I'd be more bored than I was. I really did because, I would watch them. There's some sermons, there's some long reports from the entities and, oh man, and some business, but there was enough stuff interspersed in there. There were some boring times, but I just worked on my notes for these videos, caught up on email or whatever. But it actually was, I was actually finding myself very interested in what was going on. You can go to a microphone, you can speak. Obviously, not everybody in there can because of sake of time, but if you hit the button at the right time, you can speak. And I found that there's some frequent flyers to the microphone. You know what I'm talking about, the kind of people. I almost get the idea they just wanted to be seen. And so they got to get up there and they got to say something. And you can almost feel people in the room going, really, come on, you again, come. You don't always have to go to the microphone and say something, but they have the right, okay? If it's in order, wherever it is in business, they have the right to do that. So you can do that. The president of the Southern Baptist Convention the last 2 years was Bart Barber, who I may have some other things to say about him a little bit. I don't know. I don't really know him. I some of the things that he's said and done, I don't know that I'd be a big fan of him, but I thought he did a good job moderating the meeting. Okay. So that was that. Lots of things happen. One of the things that happens is people can give motions. Now, when they first announced there were only going to be two 20-minute sessions for giving motions, I thought, no, that does not seem like very much. The Southern Baptist Convention is a business meeting, okay? And so I thought, well, that doesn't seem like very much, but it didn't take me long to figure out why there's only two 20-minute sessions. Because everybody and his brother's uncle has got to make a motion, and a long motion, okay? So they have to make a motion. They get their 3 minutes to say it, and it's one after another. Now, there's other times for motions, after reports, but these are just general motions. I want to do this or I want to do that. So they can give these motions. And SB Limited, I heard that there were a total of about 50 motions that were made. Now, you don't just make a motion, second, let's all vote on this. These motions, they have to go to what is called the Committee on Order of Business, who has to look at them. So that's all these people do during a convention. They're sitting in the back room somewhere and they're looking out, no, this is the stupidest thing ever. This is out of order. And what they do then is they recommend to the president as the chairman of the meeting, and they'll say, we have found that this motion is out of order, so it's going to be thrown out, or that this motion gets referred to this committee who needs to look over it this next year or whatever, because you can't just vote just off the bat for these things. You're going to do a lot of dumb stuff that way. And so it's time consuming. Some of the motions, however, for whatever reason, they did think was fitting to bring to the floor at this particular meeting. Then, of course, what you have to do is you have to they have to speak for it, against it. Then somebody's got to amend it. Then you got to amend the amendments. And sometimes you go through 15 minutes of all this going on, and then you drop the whole thing anyway and you vote against it. So but it's business, right? That's business meeting. Maybe some of your churches or something are that way too. Sometimes they're very specific. One particular motion actually called for the resignation of Brent Leatherwood, who is the president of the ERLC. And I believe that one got struck down being out of order. I don't remember exactly for sure. A couple of them made motions that the Southern Baptists adopt some ancient creeds, like the Nicene Creed. Everyone got a kick out of this. One older guy stood up and he said, some of us are older and we can't remember anything. I make a motion that they put your name on both the front and the back of the name tag, because if you're like me, it always flips around, right? I don't care what you do. Mine was always flipped around backwards, and there's stuff on there. There's a QR code and things. So, and I flipped it around and then still kept flipping. There's something about him. So he says, I make a motion and we put it backwards. I mean, you can do that, right? And it was kind of comic relief. Everybody's laughing about it. But you can do that. Well, one motion was made to study how Calvinist and Reformed doctrine is compatible with the Baptist faith and message. The Baptist faith and message is the doctrinal statement of the Southern Baptist Convention. They wanted to study how Reformed or Calvinist doctrine is compatible with that, and that it is removed from being taught in the seminaries. Now, I'm not sure where that one's at. Maybe that was referred to somebody, or maybe it was even struck out because they don't have that control. I'm not sure exactly what happened there, but you can see how you can just bring up anything, and that wouldn't fly anyway, because I believe there's a lot of Calvinists in the seminaries, from what I hear. By the way, if you haven't ever watched my video much, I'm not a Calvinist. I got plenty of information out there about that. Most of the motions that are brought up at these times are referred to agencies, but some actually they actually voted on them or discussed them at this meeting. So I want to share a few of them because I think these were important, give you an idea what goes on. First of all, this is one that really kind of shocked me that was brought up, was there was a motion to censor Al Mohler, Bart Barber, and Ben Mandrell. Okay, now Al Mohler is the president of Southern Seminary and was part of the conservative resurgence back, probably 70s and 80s, when the Southern Baptists were going very liberal, and they brought them back and got rid of people that were teaching in seminaries. Al Mohler, in many ways, is the SBC. Okay, he's like one of the most revered people. Agree with him or not, he played a big part in the SBC. That's Al Mohler. Bart Barber is the current president of the SBC. Well, he was until yesterday because his term ran out. And Ben Mandrell is the president of Lifeway. And so there was this motion to censor them because they had signed on with an amicus brief. You might say amicus, amicus, it's both ways. I think technically it's amicus. We'll try to use that. This brief. Now, this is what happened. This happened a few years ago. There was a sexual abuse case in Kentucky that was involved, that the Southern Baptists were involved with. I don't know all the details about it. Doesn't matter. But they were involved with this. They're in this court case. The issue with this, though, is that this woman that was accusing someone for abusing her had passed the statute of limitations. So this was all going on. At the same time, there was another case going on in Kentucky that was similar in some ways, not affecting the SBC. But in this other case, there was discussion about whether they should expand the time for the statute of limitations, and if they would be able to sue an organization like a government or a church or a religious organization. And because how they ruled on that case could affect the SBC case, the lawyers of the SBC were recommending to these people, to sign this amicus brief, asking them not to do this, not to expand the statute of limitations, because that would then affect this other case. It could cause the SBC to be liable. So the SBC lawyers were telling these leaders, hey, we really want you to sign this, and all three of them did. So what happened was this person came to the microphone. He wanted to censor these leaders for doing this, because this wasn't the first time they heard about it. This has been a really big deal for a lot of people. So he wanted to censor them, but somebody came and made an amendment to that motion that said, we want to recognize that Bart Barber, the president, had actually publicly repented of what he did. And that's true. This is what happened. Bart Barber, I read his post about it, or his article about it. And he said the lawyers were really pressuring him to sign this thing. And he didn't have much time to look at it because he was busy setting up people to be on the abuse resistance implementation task force at the time with SBC. He only had a few hours to read it. He looked at it. He took the lawyer's advice and signed it. And later he wished he wouldn't have. Okay. That's what he said. On the other hand, though, both Ben Mandrell from Lifeway and Al Mohler had the chance to speak according to the Constitution. If it's about them, they can speak. And so both of them talk about how they had trusted their lawyers and how people should trust the SBC lawyers. Now, this is a quote from Al Mohler. He says, "We have done nothing wrong. We have acted rightly in the situation." Now, this is what I find very interesting, is that all three of them signed on to this. Bart Barber said, "I wish I wouldn't have." He apologized for it. Now, if this was a sincere apology, if he really believed he did that was wrong, I would respect him for that. What I wonder about is, why did he do this? And the other two said that we believe we did what was right. If Barber really believed that what he did was wrong there, I think that's fine that he would apologize for it. But Al Mohler and Ben Mandrell, they both said, no, we did the right thing. And I respect them for that. Now, why is this such a big deal? Why is it such a big deal? It's such a big deal because, like I said, sexual abuse is maybe the hottest topic right now in the SBC. And if you're not totally encapsulated in sexual abuse reform, I mean, if this is like not your thing, then there's something wrong with you. That's the way that it's viewed by many people. So Bart Barber, he's being attacked by the people that are all about sexual abuse, saying, why would you sign this amicus brief? Why would you do this? This is going to hurt survivors and things like that. He's like, oh, no, that's not what I meant. Al Mohler and Ben Mandrell were like, we want to help these abused people. We want to set this up, but it was not wrong for us to sign on that brief because it was going to help the SBC. And technically, I think I would be more in the group, excuse me, with Ben Mandrell and Al Mohler. I was very glad to hear that they weren't just backing down because, all the time it's always, if you bring up something, oh, you got to back down, you got to pander to whatever the general thought is. They didn't do that. They just said, we did what we thought was right. We still think it's right. We're taking a lot of heat for it, but we stand on what we did. And so they are being accused for, oh, you don't care about sexually abused people. That is not the point. This was a specific situation, but you have to virtue signal, right? It has to be all about sexual abuse right now in the SBC. And so they didn't. So how did this turn out? Did we censure them? This is really interesting because in the end, we didn't have a vote. What happened was, I want to make sure I have this right. So when a motion is made, like I said, it goes back to the Committee on Order of Business, who looks at it and sees if it's in order. Well, they did. They looked at it, says in order. And so the president, Bart Barber, who this was pointing to, he ruled that it wasn't in order. So yes, if you want to censor me, this is in order. Okay. What the body did, the messengers did, was voted to overrule the chair's ruling that it was in order. In other words, the messengers in the body said, you know what, Mr. President, we think that this is out of order. We're not going to vote on it. So we didn't vote on it. So in a sense, they were saying, no, we're not going to do this. Now, personally, I was kind of hoping it would go to a vote and get voted down to send the signal that we're not going to virtue signal around here. Okay. In a sense, it did the same thing because the body said, look, we're not interested in doing this whole censure thing. But I kind of wish we would have just been able to vote no on it. But either way, it was kind of the same thing. And so hopefully a message was sent that don't just come in here and try to censor anybody that you want. Okay. So I was pretty happy with that. Another motion was to request the president form a fact-finding committee to review the work of the Abuse Reform and Implementation Task Force. Okay, so I have more information about that later, but it's just a task force to do stuff with to fight against sexual abuse and everything. And when they did the report, not a whole lot had happened, and there's other reasons for it. That motion failed. Another one is to review the North American Mission Board's legal activities between 2017 and 2024. So there's a lot going on with NAMB right now. The president is Kevin Ezell, and he and Will McCraney, who used to be the executive director of the Maryland-Delaware State Convention, they had a difference of opinion. Kevin Ezell and Will McCraney had a difference of opinion about how to do church planting. And so the story is that Ezell withheld NAMB funds from going to that state convention there until they fired Will McCraney. And of course, there was a whole big legal thing. I'm not sure how it turned out, if it's even done yet. The whole big thing. So there's all this going on with NAMB. And so somebody comes up and they says, we want to review all of NAMB's legal proceedings in these particular years. But it wasn't so much about the Will McCraney case. It's more about some of the statements that they had made. Apparently, a representative from NAMB had even made the comment about the SBC being a hierarchical organization, which is a lie. It isn't. So those are the kind of things. So in the end, that vote did not pass. This is a big one, but it's kind of perennial, is to abolish the Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission, the ERLC, which is a public policy arm of the Southern Baptist Convention. I think this was made about every year. It was a motion that was made by Tom Askell from Founders Ministries, and it also failed. Of course, they gave reasons and everything for that. Another motion was made to appoint a Blue Ribbon Committee to review the Baptist Faith and Message of 2000, which is our our statement, which is purposely a little bit vague in a lot of areas, the way my understanding is. But they wanted to review this and see about proposed revisions. And when they mentioned this one, I got a little nervous because I don't know what it meant. When the guy was speaking to it, he was talking about how, there's a progressive nature of our world. And to me, I was kind of afraid that if we start really looking at the Baptist faith and message, that it would end up being more liberalized. And so I was not agreeing for that. And I guess everybody agreed with me, and it failed. Another one, somebody brought up, you can bring up any motion. One motion is to remove pledges of allegiance to any earthly kingdom from all convention activities. At one point, when we were honoring chaplains, we stood up, we did the pledge to the American flag, and he didn't want that anymore. But that motion also failed. Okay, that motion also failed. And there was another one about reconsidering a thing on the ERLC, but that not that big of a deal to me, so I'm going to skip that for now. So that was some of it. The next video I want to make is some specific votes on some of the hot topics that are out there, some of the hot topics. And then the fourth one will be on the law amendment, women in ministry. So I hope you join with me. All the links, once they're all published, all the links should be here in the description of this video. All right, God bless. I'll see you next time.